Good evening and welcome to NTD News. I'm Stephanie Cox. Here are today's top stories. President Biden has returned from Florida and was back in the White House today, where he joined a swearing-in ceremony for 21 newly naturalized citizens ahead of the 4th of July. More than 800,000 jobs were added in the past month, according to the latest jobs report, but the unemployment rate also went up. This year's foreign aid spending bill that just passed the House committee would use U.S. tax dollars to fund global abortion programs, even in countries where abortions are forced on people. Illegal immigrants break into a Texas ranch house near the border, stealing firearms and ammunition. Ranchers share their stories about how the border crisis is impacting their daily lives and causing their families to live in fear. Chicago police gear up for what could be another holiday weekend marred by murder. The superintendent says they'll risk everything to keep citizens safe. With the upcoming celebration of the nation's founding, President Biden today held a naturalization ceremony at the White House where he welcomed 21 new U.S. citizens. NTD's Steve Lance is in Washington, D.C. with the details.
Just ahead of the July 4th holiday, President Joe Biden hosted an immigration ceremony at the White House today, where his Homeland Security Chief Alejandro Mayorkas conducted the ceremony.
Against all enemies, foreign and domestic. That I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same.
The naturalization ceremony comes as the federal government makes an effort to naturalize 10,000 new citizens in honor of Independence Day. The United States Citizen and Immigration Services, which falls under the purview of Mayorkas, says that it will hold 170 naturalization ceremonies across the country in support of this effort to naturalize 10,000 people. President Biden says that it takes courage for people to take the step of becoming a citizen, and he recalled a private discussion he had with the dictator of the Chinese Communist Party.
I'm often asked by world leaders that I'm with, particularly autocrats, how can I define America? I was with Xi Jinping on the Tibetan Plateau, and he asked me that, and I traveled with him 17,000 miles, and it was a private meeting, just he and I and a contemporaneous translator. He said, "Can you define America for me?" I said, "Yeah, I can. In one word. One word. Possibilities."
President Biden went on to praise the country and what it stands for and reminded people of the sacrifices the American people have made, including immigrants. Now, outside of the immigration ceremony taking place at the White House, the Biden administration is also planning on having a 4th of July celebration with an expected 1,000 guests in attendance. Now, they have received a little bit of pushback and criticism from both sides of the aisle, with some on the left saying that this type of gathering is a little bit too large, too soon. And then you have those on the right who say that with all of the federal pandemic restrictions still in place, it seems to be a little bit hypocritical. Steve Lance, NTD News, Washington, D.C.
American soldiers in Afghanistan are packing up. Reports say their largest military base is now empty. NTD's Miguel Moreno has that story.
It's been 20 years since American forces invaded Afghanistan in retaliation to al-Qaeda's 9/11 attacks. U.S. troops have been gradually pulled out. Multiple reports say Bagram Airfield, the largest American military air base, is now empty. President Biden says they left on schedule.
We're on track exactly as to where we expect it to be.
By September, he says the forces will be completely withdrawn from Afghanistan and that the Afghan government has the situation under control.
I think they have the capacity to be able to sustain the government. There's going to have to be, down the road, more negotiations, I suspect.
Reports speculate that the Central Asian government could fall without U.S. troops to back them up because the war-waging Taliban is capturing some districts. We couldn't confirm how many of these districts they're taking over or how large these districts are. Miguel Moreno, NTD News.
The U.S. Labor Department just released the June jobs report. More than 800,000 jobs were gained in the month, but the unemployment rate also went up.
The The Labor Department announced on Friday that the economy added 850,000 jobs last month, beating the estimate of 706,000. The unemployment rate, however, also rose to 5.9% from 5.8% in May. President Biden made positive remarks on the report.
We're on the right track. Our plan is working, and we're not going to let up now.
But economists say that the report should not be treated as entirely positive.
This has been a very strange report because there are total inconsistencies between the household survey and the payroll survey.
The employment survey, which was up substantially, is telling you that there's a more robust labor market, where the household-based survey is telling you that the labor market's not as robust. And
as of June, the U.S. economy was still short 6.8 million jobs compared to February 2020. Labor force participation rate remained at 61.6% and hasn't improved since August of 2020.
All this reminds me that there's further work to do with healing the economy and getting more people back to work, with still more than 9 million Americans unemployed.
26 states have ended expanded unemployment benefit programs due to severe labor shortages.
This year's annual foreign aid spending bill would make it easier for countries around the world to carry out abortions. If passed, the bill would use U.S. dollars to fund abortion programs in other countries, even in countries where abortions are forced on people. Republicans made 3 attempts to remove this from the bill, but all of them failed. NTD's Melina Weiskup has more details.
This year's foreign spending bill just passed the committee along party lines and is set to be debated on the House floor. The bill repeals a number of policies that have prevented U.S. taxpayers from funding abortions around the world, thus making it easier to fund abortion programs worldwide.
These restrictions on women's health must end. Women in developing countries deserve the safety and dignity of basic health care, including access to safe abortions.
Lee is the chairwoman of the State and Foreign Operations Subcommittee and also the co-chair of the Congressional Pro-Choice Caucus. The new foreign aid bill deletes a decades-long policy called the Helms Amendment, which bans U.S. foreign aid from funding abortions. Republican Representative Kay Granger tried to reinsert the Helms Amendment because she said it has been the fundamental protection for the unborn in the state foreign operations bill for decades. But Democrats outvoted Republicans, deleting the Helms Amendment. And Republican Representative Ashley Hinson introduced an amendment to prevent the U.S. from funding global organizations that force abortions or sterilization.
We need this amendment because it is used to prevent American money from supporting barbaric practices by the Chinese Communist Party. Iowans and all Americans do not want their paychecks going into the CCP's pockets at all, especially not so the CCP can commit human rights atrocities, which we know they're doing.
But her amendment also failed, 27-31.
I can't imagine that anyone in this room is for coercive abortion or involuntary sterilization, so why not put that protection in the bill?
Chairwoman Barbara Lee urged Democrats to vote no to this because she said the amendment would make countries choose between accepting U.S. funds for conducting safe abortions and closing their doors.
This amendment would be a step back for women's reproductive health, and I urge my colleagues to oppose it.
Lee is also trying to permanently remove something called the Mexico City policy, which prevents foreign organizations that receive U.S. health assistance funds from also facilitating or advocating for abortions. This foreign spending bill could easily pass in the Democrat majority House, but it faces an uphill battle in the evenly split Senate. Reporting in Washington, D.C., Melina Weiskup, NTD News.
And North Carolina's Representative Virginia Foxx just dodged a $5,000 fine for allegedly violating a recent House security rule. The rule, implemented after the January 6th Capitol breach, requires lawmakers to go through a security screening before entering the House chamber. Capitol Police reported and fined Congresswoman Foxx for setting off the metal detector and bypassing 2 officers who tried to stop her for a second security check. Foxx appealed the fine, and the House Ethics Committee sided with her, though they didn't give details about why they chose to drop the fines. But 3 other Republicans who filed appeals still face a total of more than $20,000 in fines. Republican Congressman Andrew Clyde and Louis Gohmert filed a lawsuit to battle the fines because they say it is being unequally applied. No Democrats have faced fines, even though they've also allegedly skipped the security screening. Now, the Supreme Court has rejected a Trump-era case. It involves funding for the U.S.-Mexico border wall. NTD's Kevin Hogan brings us the details.
People like to say to the media.
The Supreme Court on Friday rejected an appeal from former President Trump. He appealed in October last year after the Ninth Circuit Court said his use of military funds to help build the border wall was illegal. Now the Supreme Court told the Ninth Circuit Court to roll back its ruling. Furthermore, SCOTUS told a district court, which is lower, to determine what proceedings are necessary at this point. That's because a major detail has changed since the ruling and appeal were made. That is, Trump's no longer president. Trump had planned to declare a national emergency surrounding the border. That was so he could redirect funds from the National Emergencies Act to build the wall. A route he took because Congress only gave him about $1.5 out of the roughly $5.5 billion he sought to build it. Lower courts ruled that Trump's order violated the separation of powers outlined in the Constitution. The Ninth Circuit upheld a court order stopping the wall construction during the case, but the Supreme Court nullified that ruling in 2019. Under Trump, about 450 miles of wall were completed, which is about 1/4 the length of the nearly 2,000-mile border. Texas Governor Abbott has hinted he may tap into the billions of dollars in federal relief money for the virus to continue Trump's project. Kevin Hogan, NTD News.
The federal government is pausing all executions of federal death row inmates until a policy review is completed. Advocates of the death penalty say it's an important deterrent against serious crimes.
U.S. Attorney Merrick Garland issued a memo pausing all federal executions Thursday. It says the pause will last until a review of policies regarding the death penalty is complete. The memo states the Department of Justice must ensure that everyone in the federal criminal justice system is not only afforded the rights guaranteed by the Constitution and laws of the United States, but also treated fairly and humanely. That obligation has special force in capital cases. Last year, the Justice Department carried out the first federal executions in 17 years under the Trump administration. 13 death row inmates were executed between July 2020 and January 2021. In his election campaign, President Biden had promised to eliminate the death penalty. Biden's campaign website states, "Because we cannot ensure we get death penalty cases right every time, Biden will work to pass legislation to eliminate the death penalty at the federal level and incentivize states to follow the federal government's example." Charles Stimson is a senior legal fellow for the Heritage Foundation. He says the death penalty serves as a deterrent to serious crimes. He says the Supreme Court has upheld the death penalty and it's supported by a majority of Americans. According to the Death Penalty Information Center, about 50 people are waiting to be executed on federal death row. Colin Fredrickson, NTD News.
A group of illegal immigrants broke into a Texas ranch house near the U.S.-Mexico border, stealing firearms and ammunition. This comes as ranches continue to report record numbers of border crossers on their properties. We hear some of their stories. Here's the details.
According to Customs and Border Protection, a group of 3 illegal immigrants burglarized a Texas ranch house in Hudspeth County, Texas, Tuesday. They stole 2 loaded handguns and ammunition. This is not uncommon. Burglaries, property damage, in some cases assault, have become a reality for many landowners living along the border.
The word overwhelmed is a good word that we're hearing from farmers and ranchers all along the border area.
Gary Joyner is the spokesman for the Texas Farm Bureau, the largest farm organization in the state, with over 500,000 member families.
The stories that we hear from farmers and ranchers in the border region will break your heart because they themselves talk about how it hurts, how it is an issue that they feel like they can't control.
That's why the organization created a platform for farmers along the border to share their stories, to let the public know what's really going on. Here's some of their stories.
All right, I'm Bill Martin. I've been ranching in Dimmitt County all my life. And this is just about the worst I have ever seen traffic coming through from the border.
This is going to cost us about $1,500 between the 2 fences to replace this. And like I said, it's been a weekly occurrence now for the last 4 months.
There's been numerous ranchers that have been assaulted while they were opening a gate, because illegals will come up on them because they want their vehicle. You know, I mean, when you're on your own property and you don't feel safe, it's really, really unnerving.
My wife carries a pistol. I wear one on my hip when I'm out the ranch, take trash out, eat dinner. We have a loaded pistol laying on the dining room table. You just never know when the back door is going to get kicked in.
Living out on the ranch, my wife cannot go for a walk around this little loop around here, pushing the stroller with my kids. It's not safe. This isn't a safe or sustainable way to live right now.
It's frustrating to see the ongoings of what's happening today with no real press or anybody that really wants to pay attention, almost like we're getting punished or something because, you know, according to people up north, there's really nothing going on, but they actually don't live here.
Joyner says many farmers tell him this is also a humanitarian crisis. He says in early July, temperatures in South Texas often reach triple digits. He says farmers are already finding dead bodies on their properties of those who have died from dehydration or heat exhaustion. For the sake of the migrants, landowners, and communities, he says farmers hope a solution can be found soon.
Chicago police are preparing for what could be another holiday weekend fraught with murder. NTD's Miguel Moreno has more on how they'll try to cut down the expected bloodshed.
4th of July weekend, a time of patriotic celebration, marked a bloodbath in Chicago last year. It's that time again, and the Chicago Police Department is preparing for the worst.
Yes, we've canceled days off and extended their tours to ensure the officers working have enough backup.
Superintendent Brown wouldn't say how many officers would be on the ground for safety reasons. He was called to this emergency meeting by some 20 city council members asking to know more about their weekend plan. Brown says this was cutting into the time they have to do their job.
I plead with you for your consideration for our time at this critical time in the year, the most violent weekend of the year. We need to be looking at the data and directing this deployment to protect this city.
The mayor called the emergency meeting political theater. Brown had actually already briefed the press about their July 4th plan this Thursday. Last year, 87 people were shot and 17 murdered during the holiday weekend. So far, there have been at least 3 more murders total this year compared to 2020. Brown says his department will risk everything to try and ensure people enjoy their weekend. Miguel Moreno, NTD News.
If your organization opposes critical race theory, watch out. The country's largest labor union will be looking into you. NTD's Allison Lee has the details.
The country's largest teachers union, the National Education Association, or NEA, says it will research organizations that oppose educators doing what they call anti-racist work. That's a term often associated with ideas of critical race theory. The union announced the plan on the website for their 2021 annual meeting. They say after researching those organizations, they will publish a list of resources for state affiliates, local and individual educators. These educators can refer to the recommendations when they face opposition for teaching critical race theory. The NEA singles out DC think tank the Heritage Foundation. Their website says the attacks on anti-racist teachers are increasing, coordinated by well-funded organizations such as the Heritage Foundation. We need to be better prepared to respond to these attacks so that our members can continue this important work. The NEA will spend over $56,000 in addition to their current budget on this project. It's not clear when they will publish their findings. The union currently boasts 3 million members. That makes them the largest labor union in the country. Allison Lee, NTD News.
Up next, New York City had problems with its power supply during this week's heat wave. What clean and renewable energy have made the situation better? With capacity restrictions gone, the nation's capital is ready for 4th of July celebrations with fireworks, parades, and food. The police chief says they will ensure the city is safe. That and more on NTD News. The heat wave in New York City is over. Record highs were measured, which led to issues with the power supply, so New Yorkers had to restrict their personal use. NTD's Arian Pazdar has the story on New York's power shift.
This is the alert you probably got on your phone if you were in New York City during the heat wave this week. It asked you to turn off electrical devices in order to prevent the city from going dark at night. However, for some, it was just too hot to turn off the AC. Did you turn anything down?
No.
Why didn't you?
Because it's not my responsibility. It's the city's.
So you wouldn't turn down the AC?
Not if I was at home, no. I'm already sweating in my apartment as is.
If I had it up, it's because I need it. It's because I really need it.
During last year's heat wave, California had outages too. Governor Newsom then said that clean energy was partly to blame for that. However, California's energy agencies responded saying that clean energy didn't cause the outages. During this week's heat wave, the U.S. Secretary of Energy visited New York to promote clean energy. One expert says some clean energy sources are not practical, even more so during heat waves.
You can have a heat wave with it being cloudy, so you can have high humidity, but not a lot of sun reaching solar power. And heat waves typically occur and the wind is not blowing. You don't have breezes, so turbines aren't turning.
But he says it is possible to provide the city with clean energy.
A wind power plant has to be built where the wind blows fairly constantly.
Those locations are often far from the city, but energy dissipates over long distances.
If you generate, let's say, 300 megawatts of electric power in the Catskill Mountains to ship them to New York, you're not getting 300 megawatts in New York City.
We contacted the American Council on Renewable Energy for comment, but didn't get a response before broadcast. Arian Pazdar, NTD News, New York.
As people get ready to celebrate the 4th of July in New York, the city is taking many precautionary measures to ensure safety. This year, the NYPD is focused on catching people who are driving under the influence. NTD's Jason Perry brings us more on the 4th of July weekend in New York City.
Last year's 4th of July celebration in New York City was mostly held virtually, but this year, the Macy's Fireworks Show will be back at full scale with over 65,000 fireworks lighting up the New York City skyline. The city is planning to implement many safety measures to make sure things go smoothly for the holiday.
We want to make sure it goes well. We want to make sure people are safe in every way. There will be dedicated viewing areas. There'll be street closures, lots of precautions being taken by the NYPD to make sure everyone is safe.
The NYPD will begin shutting down roads at 2 p.m. on Sunday, and some road closures will go into effect at 3 p.m. They're encouraging everyone to use public transportation because it will be very difficult to get around the city between 2 p.m. and 2 a.m. NYPD Chief of Patrol Juanita Holmes provides some important information for those planning to attend the fireworks show.
What we're asking is that you be very mindful of what you bring to these sites. There will be detectors there, metal detectors. Everyone will be searched at these particular access points. You're not allowed to bring any backpacks, large blankets, seats, umbrellas, naturally, and no alcohol.
During the holidays, there's normally an increase in impaired driving, traffic-related fatalities. So the NYPD will be focused on identifying and arresting impaired drivers during this entire Independence Day weekend and beyond. Jason Perry, NTD News, New York.
With Independence Day coming up, Washington, D.C. is getting ready for a variety of celebrations. The D.C. police chief says his whole department will be on duty this Sunday to ensure the city is safe.
Well, on behalf of Mayor Muriel Bowser, I'm happy to say now that D.C. is open. Our restaurants are open, our museums are open, and we're going to welcome visitors like we have for generations before us to D.C. for the national celebration of the 4th of July.
This 4th of July will be the first Independence Day out of quarantine for Washington, D.C. People are looking forward to many outdoor events to celebrate the nation's 245th birthday. Events of the day will start at 9 a.m. with a reading of the Declaration of Independence in front of the National Archives. Though the National Independence Day Parade is canceled again this year, there will be some small-scale in-person parades and picnics instead. For baseball fans, Washington Nationals will host the Los Angeles Dodgers on both Saturday and Sunday. And the traditional fireworks display is set to start at 9:09 p.m. Sunday and will last for 17 minutes. The fireworks will be launched from both sides of the Lincoln Memorial reflecting pool.
We encourage you to come to the National Mall and find a spot around the district where you can look up and safely enjoy the display.
In the White House, President Biden will host a 4th of July BBQ with over 1,000 essential workers and military families. D.C. Police Department sent out traffic advisories on street closures, parking restrictions, and watercraft restrictions.
These events have been going on for years, and we will ensure that the city is safe.
Police Chief Conti said that the entire police department will be on duty this Sunday for 4th of July fireworks.
You may have seen the movie National Treasure, where they steal the Declaration of Independence. Well, not only is the original document extremely valuable, even copies of it sell for millions of dollars. A rare signer's copy of the Founding Fathers document was found in an attic in Scotland. It was sold at an auction in Philadelphia for over $4 million. Newspaper Philly Voice reports that only around 200 copies were made at the time of the signing. Those were meant to be distributed within the 13 colonies for citizens to see. Only 50 of those are still around. And coming up, the special election date to recall California's governor is set. Voters will soon be able to visit the polls to determine the next governor. And in the Bay Area, 50 people became naturalized citizens. The ceremony was held on the USS Hornet. More on that here on NTD News.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, inventor of MyPillow. Thanks to your support, you've helped make MyPillow become one of the fastest growing companies in America. Over the last 12 years, you've helped MyPillow create thousands of jobs right here in the USA.
When I got MyPillow, I'm asleep almost immediately. I stay asleep at night and I wake up more well-rested in the morning.
That's why I invented MyPillow. My patented fill adjusts to your exact individual needs and helps keep your neck supported and aligned. I'm interrupting this commercial right now. Retailers have canceled MyPillow, and to thank you for your support, I'm gonna pass the savings directly on to you. For example, you get my 6-piece towel sets, regular $109.99, now only $44.98, or MyPillow dog beds for as low as $19.99 with your promo code.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit MyPillow.com.
Entrepreneur Richard Branson is set to travel to the edge of space on Virgin Galactic's test flight on July 11th, beating out another billionaire with astronaut aspirations, Jeff Bezos.
There's a new favorite to win the race for first billionaire in space. Virgin Galactic announced Thursday that founder Richard Branson would be blasting off aboard its test flight on July 11th. That's 9 days ahead of Branson's big competition, Amazon's Jeff Bezos and his rival space tourism venture Blue Origin. It's the fourth crewed mission by Virgin Galactic, but the first to carry a full crew, including Branson, 2 pilots, and 3 other specialists. The launch will take them to the edge of space. Beyond the Earth's atmosphere, passengers will be able to experience a few minutes of weightlessness. A successful flight would mark a key milestone for an ambitious new industry hoping to go mainstream. In a statement, Branson said that private commercial spaceflight is, quote, set to open space to humankind and change the world for good. After 2 more test flights, Virgin says it will throw open the hatch to welcome tourists in 2022. The billionaire race to space also includes SpaceX chief executive Elon Musk. Musk has not set a date for his spaceflight.
Illinois lawmakers passed a bill in May requiring K-12 public schools to teach comprehensive sex education. On July 1st, a group of parents rallied at the governor's mansion to voice their concerns.
Community members rallied outside Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker's mansion to demand he veto Senate Bill 818. The rally's organizer tells NTD the sordid details of the bill.
It's antithetical to the values that most parents have in the state of Illinois. They don't want their children being taught how to masturbate or how to experiment or how to put condoms on bananas or to get an abortion without parental consent.
SB 818 requires all public schools to align teachings in grades K through 5 with national sex education standards. The standards require children in grades 3 through 5 to learn about content including explicit sexual acts, transsexual ideology, and hormone blockers. A great-grandmother says the sex education in her age was more of a biology lesson.
When I was in school, that we did have an educational program like this, but it was a biology lesson. This was all about sexual intimacy. It wasn't about biology.
The bill claims the teaching materials are age and developmentally appropriate. A mother of 4 thinks differently.
We believe that it should be the parents' decision when their child is ready for that kind of information. I don't want my kids who are too young to comprehend things that are that abstract and complicated to have it presented to them by somebody other than me. That's my job.
A school board member says that some teachers fear peer pressure and repercussions from expressing objection.
Even though they don't agree, they don't want to raise their voice up. They would rather just keep it quiet and try to keep it out the best they can, but it's becoming so ingrained into everything. So certain aspects of this curriculum has slipped into, say, English or literature or other or social studies.
One teacher who began his retirement 4 years ago recounted the drastic change in content.
It was taught more from a traditional perspective, and they tried to respect the fact that there were parents and that parents made those types of decisions. But now they're just stepping out and teaching things that are aberrations of what the culture believes.
DePriest says the bill is a wake-up call.
2020 changed things astronomically in this country, and a lot of people are just now beginning to open their eyes and see the changes that's coming at us at light speed, and that we have to stand up if we want our voices to be heard.
Senate Bill 818 has arrived at Governor Pritzker's desk and soon may be state law in Illinois.
The special election date to recall Governor Gavin Newsom is set. California voters will soon take to the polls once again to determine the state's future. NTD's Brandon Dre has more on the announcement.
Save the date, California. Governor Gavin Newsom's recall date is set for September 14th. Lieutenant Governor Eleni Kounalakis announced a special election date yesterday for California voters to decide whether Governor Newsom should stay or go, and if he is recalled, who will replace him. In a statement, the Lieutenant Governor says she believes the date is fair and reasonable, and that it gives the election officials and the public ample time to ensure a smooth election with broad participation. Days before the date was set, Governor Newsom signed legislation to bypass a 30-day financial review of the recall. This accelerated the recall timeline. Opponents of the recall say the decision to set an earlier election date could work to his advantage.
Because he figures, hey, look, COVID's over, I'm not a bad guy anymore, and I don't want these candidates, there's already 60 that have announced they're running, there'll be more. I don't want these candidates to have time to campaign against me.
Steele says it will also help Newsom avoid backlash from unforeseen calamities in the state.
Well, he doesn't want the election in November because with a hot summer and the forest fires and the power outages, the governor always gets blamed.
Newsom's campaign manager, Juan Rodriguez, said in a statement, on September 14th, Californians will have the chance to defend our state and reject this Republican power grab once and for all. The historic recall marks the second special election in California's history. Now, according to California state voting laws, registered voters will have the opportunity to vote by mail 30 days prior to the election, and candidates who aim to replace the governor have 7 days to file. Brandon Dre, NTD News, Los Angeles.
Today, government representatives officially naturalized 50 people. NTD's Eileen Ang joins the ceremony on the U.S. Hornet in California, and here's more from the New Americans.
It's a proud moment for many aboard the museum ship. 50 people from 30 countries became U.S. citizens during a naturalization ceremony on the USS Hornet. Due to COVID restrictions last year, the event was very small, but this year it's basically returned to normal. The ceremony began with singing, followed by remarks from the mayor and representatives. Finally, they swore in as new citizens with certificates in hand.
I feel great. I feel, it has been a long time waiting for this.
It's been a long journey. It's a dream come true for me, especially with no family here. I came in with F1. I came in 2011 to study, to do my master's in business administration, HRM, which I completed in December 2013 and then graduated in May 2014. Right now being a citizen, I'm happy because I'm able to exercise my freedom, rights, responsibilities.
They have waited anywhere between 2 to 15 years.
It still feels surreal. I think I still gotta apply for the passport and everything to make it feel real. But I don't know. I'm probably gonna call my dad and my mom just to share. I don't know. I'm still going through the emotions basically.
I believe I dedicated for this journey a lot during my for last 5-6 year service back in Afghanistan as a lead interpreter in U.S. Embassy. So I think I earned it all, and I feel very delighted for it.
It will be their first 4th of July as Americans with their family and friends. Eileen Ang, NTD News, California.
A California city near a popular beach is preparing for the upcoming holiday weekend. Residents, businesses, and even city officials adorn the U.S. colors. NTD's David Lamb visits the city.
This year, the city of Watsonville is opting for a static parade called the Spirit of Watsonville Neighborhood Parade. It's a 4-day event leading up to July 4th, encouraging residents and businesses to show their festivity. As we stroll through this neighborhood, we see a lot of red, white, and blue. And one homeowner told us it took a family effort to get her house decorated. And she also said it was a good opportunity to teach her kids about the significance and meaning behind July 4th.
To me, it means Independence Day, that we have a country that is free, and if you come from poor, you can move up into steps into college and just have the opportunity to have that. It's just a joy to be part of the United States.
She said the decorations took 2 days to set up, and they're waiting for more to be delivered. About 25 houses in the neighborhood is expected to be decorated. The city of Watsonville usually holds parades and has been doing so as early as the 1950s.
It's to show our patriotic pride and to celebrate the 4th of July and to really have fun and show our community spirit.
Watsonville is about 20 miles from Santa Cruz and home to many agricultural workers.
We're also about 85 to 90% Latino. Pave a positive path forward for our community moving down the road.
Residents are looking forward to its first major event since the June 15th reopening. David Lamb, NTD News, California.
And as people prepare to celebrate July 4th, airports across the United States are anticipating a surge in travelers. NTD's Cynthia Kai spoke with people at one airport to hear about upcoming travel plans.
As July 4th approaches, over 47 million Americans are expected to take to the nation's roads and skies. We're here at San Francisco International Airport, where hundreds of people are already lining up to check in. According to AAA, SFO is expecting a record-breaking 40,000 travelers per day.
So we are expecting some of the highest numbers that we've seen at SFO since the pandemic began. We set a new high number yesterday with over 44,000 passengers going through our security checkpoint. We will probably hit that number again today. And for the next several days, we'll probably have over 40,000 a day going through our security checkpoint.
As traveler volume is expected to increase, several locals explain their travel plans.
So I go every summer. I didn't go last summer because of COVID, and I do go every summer, and I'm going now for the first time in like 2 years.
Yeah, I haven't traveled for a little bit. I did travel during the COVID, but since it's a little more open now, it feels more normal.
Yako says air travel is recovering, but the numbers are still below pre-pandemic levels.
And when we look at what sector of travel is recovering, it's really domestic travel and it's leisure travel. Those are the categories that really are leading the recovery so far.
Travel volumes are expected to reach pre-pandemic levels. According to AAA, SFO is ranked 7th among the top 10 busiest airports for this holiday weekend. If you're planning to travel, remember to get here early. Bring a mask, pack your bags, and bring a little bit of patience. Cynthia Kai, NTD News, California.
Coming up, are Beijing's Taiwan unification plans a reality? Public officers in the U.S. Navy are saying that it could happen in 6 years. And a man in Hong Kong took his own life after stabbing a police officer, leaving the officer in critical condition. The man's suicide note says it was to protest against Beijing's tightened control under the national security law. That and more here on NTD News. What are Chinese people's reactions to the Chinese Communist Party's celebrations on Thursday? Many say the event gave them chills.
Standing at the gate of Tiananmen and dressed in a Mao suit, Chinese Communist Party or CCP leader Xi Jinping pumped a fist into the air, and 70,000 spectators in Tiananmen Square clapped and waved CCP flags in unison.
伟大光荣正确的中国共产党万岁!
It was the CCP's centennial celebrations on Thursday, but not everyone in China seemed impressed.
It's hard to tell if this is China or North Korea. If things really get to that point, the future must be in a dark abyss.
Beijing resident Mr. Mao also says he feels that China has returned to the Cultural Revolution era and become a large-sized version of North Korea. He adds that despite having so many red flags waving in the air, the celebrations didn't feel joyful. That's because none of the top CCP officials had a happy face. And Chinese democracy activist Dong Guangping also felt the same.
This kind of behavior only shows that these people are irrational and do not think independently. They worship this kind of uniformed public spectacle.
On the same day, representatives from the Communist Youth League also delivered a presentation. They said, "I offer my youth to the party." The scene sent chills down the spine of a Beijing magazine journalist called Song Shiting. She posted on Chinese social media Weibo the way the girls were lined up and filled with pride, competing to be sacrificed. It's such a horror movie. Just a few seconds. I can see my hair standing on end. China's state-backed internet commenters and other users immediately attacked Song for the post, and her Weibo account has also since disappeared. The magazine she works for didn't respond to this incident. And Dong also seemed to share Song's view.
The young people and the students in China are like wood and robots. The CCP has dumbed down the Chinese people for decades and kept them away from Western ideas. These students are also victims.
Dong says the CCP's celebrations reminded him of Nazi Germany's large propaganda events. And he adds that it's real horror, seeing Chinese people being brainwashed by the CCP and not knowing what's right.
Is Beijing going to take over Taiwan by force within this decade? A number of top admirals in the U.S. Navy are saying Beijing could attempt it. But they also say it's the duty of the U.S. Navy to prevent it. NTD's Don Ma has more.
Top military leaders within the U.S. could be forming a consensus. That is, Beijing's plans for a military takeover of Taiwan are a reality. The newly appointed commander of the U.S. Pacific Fleet, Admiral Sam Papero, commented on the issue recently, and he agrees with former commander of U.S. Indo-Pacific Command, Admiral Philip Davidson. Here's what Davidson previously said.
Taiwan is clearly one of their ambitions before then, and I think the threat is manifest during this decade, in fact, in the next 6 years.
Papero says he completely agrees with Davidson's statement. He adds that China is a pacing threat and he is worried about their ambitions. On the 100th anniversary of the CCP, party leader Xi Jinping made it abundantly clear that, quote, China's complete reunification with Taiwan is a historic mission and an unshakable commitment of the Communist Party of China. But Papero assures that whether the Chinese takeover is tomorrow, next year, or whether it's in 6 years, it is the duty of the U.S. Navy to thwart any effort on the part of the Chinese to upend that world order, to include the unification by force of Taiwan to the People's Republic of China. The U.S. Pacific Fleet is part of the U.S. Indo-Pacific Command. It boasts around 200 warships and 2,000 aircrafts. Don Ma, NTD News.
Coming up, free press might disappear forever in Hong Kong if democracies don't step in as soon as possible. That's according to Reporters Without Borders. And England's quarter-final clash with Ukraine kicks off in Rome on Saturday. Fans who can't make it to the match in person show their excitement at home. Find out more in just a moment here on NTD News.
With Shepherd Lock, you can unlock your door by touching the deadbolt. Shepherd also boosts your home's security by proactively freezing in place if anyone ever tries to tamper with your lock or break down your door. We also make it easy to manage keys without hiding them under the mat. Easily create temporary keys for house guests, neighbors, or anyone else. Installation takes less than 5 minutes. Visit shepherdlock.com to buy your Shepherd Lock today, and for a limited time, enjoy 10% off.
Get ready, world, for a whole new way to invest. Introducing the Unicorn Hunters.
We are talking about a cultural and economic shift.
A savvy group of investors whose only job is to provide an unvarnished assessment of who they think can become the next unicorn.
I am in and I'm going to invest. We all know why we're here. We're here to meet the next unicorn opportunity.
This could be a game changer for a lot of families.
Together with you, they're on the hunt for the next unicorn.
Since Hong Kong authorities imposed the national security law 1 year ago, the free press has been on a downward spiral. NGO Reporters Without Borders says the situation is more serious than ever in the peninsula. NTD's David Vives has the story.
There might be no free press in Hong Kong at all in the coming years. That's according to analysis by Reporters Without Borders, or RSF. 1 year ago, the Chinese Communist Party imposed a sweeping national security law on the region that would allow the police to arrest any opponents.
It's never been that bad in Hong Kong, and we can say that press freedom in Hong Kong is in grave danger of disappearing because it's been already 1 year of endless attacks.
Apple Daily founder Jimmy Lai was arrested in August 2020. Other journalists, including those from Apple Daily, were also arrested in the past year. Other incidents also occurred, such as the attack on the Hong Kong Epoch Times newspaper printing press in April this year. According to Aldiani, after the shutdown of Apple Daily, which was a major independent outlet, smaller ones are sure to follow. RSF has appealed to the United Nations to take immediate action after the freezing of Apple Daily's assets, and also called on the international community to step in.
Democracies do not involve and do not pressure on China and do not pressure on Hong Kong. And when I say pressure, it's not only to publicly blame them, it is to hurt them through sanctions that would actually make them regret. If democracies do not do this, then press freedom in Hong Kong will surely disappear in the coming years.
He also said without freedom of press, there is no way people can have control over their lives and their future.
The people are not citizens anymore. They are subjects to the state. They are not in control of their destiny. They are not in control of what's surrounding around them. They are not aware of crimes and violations of their rights.
Reporting by David Vives, NTD News.
Fans and players alike are getting ready for England's quarter-final clash with Ukraine on Saturday. English football manager Gareth Southgate has many tough selection calls to make, but one name is a certainty on his team sheet. NTD's Eddie Aitken brings us the build-up.
The England team are getting ready for their quarter-final clash on Saturday against Ukraine. Gareth Southgate will oversee England's training session at their Midlands base in the morning, before they fly to Rome in the afternoon. Southgate has plenty of selection decisions to make, but one name is a certainty on his team sheet: goalkeeper Jordan Pickford. Pickford has not conceded a goal in the tournament.
Yeah, for me it's very good, and it's really nice, but it's not just me, you know, it's a full 11, and everyone's working hard to keep them clean sheets because, you know, tournament football, clean sheets are key, and to just give us a basis of keeping clean sheets will keep us progressing and give the lads up front the opportunity to go and score goals.
Pickford was crucial in the 2-0 win over Germany at Wembley on Tuesday. He made a fine save of a Kai Havertz's shot, and his expert positioning meant Thomas Müller missed a great chance to equalise.
Beating Germany was a massive game for us as a nation, and massive game for us in the tournament football base. Then we just need to be on our A game come Saturday against Ukraine. We know it's going to be a tough game. Every game's tough, so we'll be ready for Ukraine on Saturday.
As part of their post-match recovery, the team enjoyed a round of volleyball in the pool at their base. England fans are getting ready for the match too. In an estate in southeast London, residents of a block of flats have decked out their whole estate with more than 400 England flags. The patriotic makeover is a tradition that started in 2012 and was the brainchild of 3 residents who paid for the flags themselves. Eddie Aitken, NTD News.
Futuristic vehicles are turning science fiction into reality. This week, a company in Slovakia tested a flying car prototype, sending it soaring between 2 city airports. The roadworthy vehicle can be transformed into a plane in just a few minutes. NTD's Colin Fredrickson takes us there.
By extending its narrow folded wings and retractable tail, a 4-wheeled car transforms into an airplane in under 3 minutes. This is Aircar, a prototype flying car developed by Slovakian company Klein Vision. On Monday, Aircar completed a 35-minute test flight between 2 Slovak airports. The company founder and designer Stefan Klein drove it straight off the runway and into town. The intercity flight distance measured in at about 50 miles. The car has flown at an altitude of over 8,000 feet, reaching a maximum cruising speed of almost 120 miles per hour. The company said it was the car's 142nd successful landing. It's completed over 40 hours worth of test flights so far, including tests for stability and maneuverability. According to Klein Vision, Aircar's second prototype is expected to reach cruising speeds of almost 190 miles per hour.
And that's all for today's news. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Stephanie Cox. A new channel. Subscribe to us on YouTube at NTD News. Get the highlights of our news broadcast and the most important headlines that we curate especially for you.
Don't let YouTube decide what information you get. That's your choice. YouTube is deleting our videos and cuts you off from a source of honest reporting. Make sure you don't lose access to NTD's news content, and take a quick moment to subscribe to our newsletter so no matter what happens here, you'll keep your access to a trustworthy news source.